I just don't think we're getting the right dairy. So dairy has 100 issues, and especially pasteurized and homogenized, it's not doing much for you. All the estrogen dependent cancers that you have, and I can say this, are very dependent on what your dairy consumption is. Given the choice between food and sex, most people choose food. I'm telling you, I've asked that question a lot of times.
Yeah.
Everything you are is what you eat. It's a fact. Your skin, your hair, the way you look. Don't eat any grains at night. The worst decision to make for someone who's mentally depressed.
Hello and welcome to Rule Breaker. We're breaking some rules, but what rules are we breaking? Shonali, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
The spotlight in our conversation needs to start with a pause. Why is menopause, perimenopause, suddenly the obsession of our conversation? And were we truly living under a rock all this while?
I guess whenever the West makes a noise, we take it up. And I think that's what really happened. And women have become more vocal because of social media. So I think we have a platform where we can air our views. I think that's what started happening. That's what changed the game actually. And women have become more, wanting to talk about what happens to them. So we want to talk about our experiences. We want to talk about who we are. So I think that's why. So you heard it less. You heard your mother talk about it less, but you talk about it more.
Yeah.
And I also think we're also considering, from where I come from, you're exposed to a lot more, so you're going through a lot more.
Oh, and the other way as well. You're going through so much that some of it is becoming relatable finally.
Not really. I think when I look at it from my landscape, from my eyes, from a nutrition landscape, you're exposed to a lot more junk and a lot more environmental stressors. So you're going through a lot more because you're triggering yourself at a very young age. And then that's what's causing the problems in a difficult menopause.
Yeah.
Usually menopause should be pain, like going through a perimenopause or menopause should be painless. It should be like your mother went through it. It should be.
Do you think our mothers were just stuck with silence?
I don't think so. I mean, my mother was fairly vocal. She would talk about what she went through. So I think it's household to household. I know that if she was going through something, she would have talked about it. But I just don't think she went through it to look at it from the point of view like, oh, I'm going through perimenopause or oh, I'm going through menopause.
Yeah.
A lot of it gets, you go through it because you've kind of given yourself the wrong stimuli at a younger age, in your 20s and 30s, and that's what's going to, like every decade determines the next. So because you're going through it in a certain, you have to know how to go through it, how to navigate it.
Let's unpack that. What is it that people need to do in their 20s, 30s, 40s, etc.? And how does that whole thing eventually play out during their pause
So
years?
I'll give you an example. If you expose yourself to too much of hydrogenated fat coming from products, or you're exposing yourself to too much of dairy, okay, or you're exposing yourself to too much of sugar, that's going to have its own ramifications. And menopause is not just the function of estrogen, progesterone. It is when you're going to go through it, but it's also a function of pushing your insulin marker, for example. And how is your CRP, your inflammation, going to play out because of that? So a lot of women, when they are younger now, for example, PCOS and PCOD, you're seeing it happen to a lot more women today.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that happen to a lot more women today, but primarily because they're eating erratically and they're exposed to a lot of junk. All right? So it doesn't happen because your hormones suddenly go off. It happens because you're pushing your hormones with the wrong stuff.
People would never think like this. They actually never connect the idea of PCOS or PCOD to food. Can you detail that out a little bit for us?
So, we often think of what should I do. We don't think of what are we doing that's getting us there.
Yeah.
My thing is what should you not do? Why focus on what should you do when what you're doing is wrong, right? So most of us today, as opposed to the time our mothers were going through it, are exposed to a lot of packaged and processed foods.
10-minute delivery.
Exactly. And in those packaged and processed foods, you are getting additives and chemicals and sweeteners which are coming in, which you're trying to take it, you're doing it on an everyday basis, and then that's pushing certain things off in your body, namely some hormone or the other, all right, or pushing your gut off.
Yeah.
When that happens, then you're pushing your body anyway into an overdrive, and your body at 20 is breaking down with the PCOS, PCOD, and then going further, you're making yourself ready for some toxic estrogen buildup. So you go into an estrogen dominance, all right? Then you're going to somewhere hit pregnancies, right? You go through that phase. A lot of women are having low AMH, which is low anti-Mullerian hormones, which means they can't conceive, so fertility has become an issue. So all these things are happening mainly because of the way you're pushing yourself with food. Right?
And to think I, who researched a decent amount, didn't connect this so much. So food comes sometimes before the hormonal changes. We always think of it the other way.
Yeah.
That I am presented with these problematic hormones, now I need to fix myself.
Yeah, it's not that. I think women are, to be honest with you, they're going to hate me for this, but I'm going to say it.
Yes.
And I think we make such a big deal about it. It is a big deal, but it's going to be no big deal if you've taken care of yourself well in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, and then when you come around the perimenopause and menopause time, you kind of just glide into it.
Nice. So in order for us to just rethink, for those who are watching this in their 20s and then 30s, what exactly do you mean take care of yourself? What is the nature of nutrition we are reflecting on here?
So when you're looking at your plate, you're looking at your whole grains, first of all, you're looking at home cooked food, right? So in my time, I knew I ate more home cooked food than people are eating today.
Yeah.
Than kids are eating today.
Drastically.
We ate 3 square meals a day and we ate them at home. There was no system of, I have to eat every 2 hours, so I need to put in a mid-morning snack and I need to put in. No, the body works very well on 3 square meals a day.
Provided you're having them.
Yeah. Provided also you're plugging in a snack at, let's say, 5 o'clock or something like that. I think there's more out there, so we're getting more exposed. People are eating less food, eating more supplements to keep themselves going, and that really doesn't work.
It's partly because they're eating less food in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. And also food, you're becoming scared of food. For example, you're scared of eating your green carbs because you feel you'll gain weight. Now, if you look at your chart and what you're eating, it's greens, vegetables, lentils, legumes, protein, which is fish or chicken, and you're eating nuts and seeds, okay, hopefully, and you're having some fruit. And in the Indian diaspora, you're having dahi or you're having something probiotic in nature.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest missing components of where I come from, which I try to fix into the Indian diet because I do something called macrobiotics, was the fermented food component.
Yeah.
Right? That becomes important because you're replenishing good gut bugs.
Yes.
And that becomes the glue of the meal. All right? So if you really look at your chart, it's really traditional.
Yeah.
And it's okay to do a little bit of white rice. It's nice if you get brown and red. It's okay to do your gluten if you're not gluten intolerant. It's fine. But if you are, then you have other grains. We always had millets, right?
Yeah.
We always had jawar, nachni, bajra.
We just have the campaigns now.
We just had them sitting in our cupboards. No one was talking about it, and now the world's talking about it, so we bought them out, right? There are lentils, legumes. There's people who are non-vegetarian, have the little meat and the chicken. You have nuts and seeds. You have fruit. This is your basic, right? Now, on top of this, you build up and say, okay, I get essential fatty acids from, let's say, chia and flax, or I get them from fish oils. So you need that component to be fixed. Once that's done, you work your day around these few things and minimize your exposure to too much of caffeine, too much of tea, too much of alcohol, too much of sugar, too much of... The thing is, we lead very pressure cooked lives. By that I mean contracted lives. We're working all the time, we're on the road, social media is hitting us at unknown speeds, we're trying to keep up, we've become trying to manage things together, multitasking all the time, and that's pushing the way we eat, because that's putting you in a contracted pressure cooker like situation. Now if you want to expand yourself and get out of there, the first thing you reach to is sugar.
The vending
or
machine
alcohol.
in the office.
Yeah, or the vending machine which is giving you sugar.
Yeah.
So I have this theory in, again, coming from macrobiotics, is that there's yang, contractedness, and there's yin, expansiveness, and those are the foods that you're eating as well. And all that junk coming to you comes under the yang category, so it makes you contracted. And when you're going to look at expanding that energy, you look for good quality vegetable sugars coming from carrots and beetroots and cabbage and onions, and include all that in your red pumpkin.
Yeah.
of the fruit in your diet, as opposed to reaching out for a granola bar which has sugar, or reaching out to, sugary food product, or reaching out to a, Indians have a lot of habit of having this farsan in their diet.
Yeah.
So at 5 o'clock you want that,
Yeah.
right?
Often fried.
Yeah, so, or
Yeah.
sugary drinks.
But I love this idea of yin and yang. I mean, I think that does bring a bunch of things together. But I want to just go back to, again, unpacking more. So, you talked about gluten. Now, whether or not it's a fad, precisely everyone comes back after meeting a nutritionist and say, I need to stop gluten, right? Is this really a problem with the Indian, population, that gluten is something that irritates them, or is this something that's perceived to irritate us? Because, when I speak to my grandmother, she doesn't understand this gluten allergy.
So,
to
again,
speak.
it comes down to processed and refined. So, when you look at the wheat grain, the wheat kernel, if you're getting it from a good source, because it's coming into our diets every day, like Indians have roti every day, right?
Yeah.
And if you're looking at it not being hybridized, all right, then you're talking about, okay, gluten coming in, and are you intolerant towards it? Most Punjabis, I'm Punjabi, I come from there, and our genes lean towards,
Roti.
eating roti,
Yeah,
are fine with it,
correct.
right? But when you have the hybridized version of a wheat kernel, right, now it's becoming, it's changing.
Yes.
There's a mutation happening to it, and people have compromised guts anyway, then it becomes a problem. Because then what happens is it starts triggering things.
What does it trigger?
It could trigger anything. If you have an autoimmune condition, thyroid for example, or if you have a gut issue, irritable bowel disease or syndrome, then that gluten, which is little processed, little refined, it's like if you're taking in maida, it won't process. So if you're taking in a little processed grain, it won't really go down very well.
Yeah.
It has analogs and it has stuff in it which will cause problems.
Two terms you used in the course of this conversation. One was toxic estrogen. Talk to us about what that is, and you also mentioned it tends to happen like in their 30s. What exactly?
No, so the thing is that not everybody gets it, but I'm talking about women who have an ovulatory cycles, like a PCOS woman is not getting her periods on time.
Yeah.
So usually there's a estrogen build up, and now she has to work with her gut to also eliminate that estrogen.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't happen to all women, but in a perimenopause situation, a lot of women do go through it, and things like too much coffee, alcohol can also trigger a lot of it.
And how does it manifest, this toxic estrogen? Does it make them emotional? It makes them cry? I'm just wondering, is there a manifestation
You
of
could get
it?
painful breasts at that time, so painful breast is a sign. You could have, heat produced in the body, so you'd be more pitta dominant and, hot flushes,
Yeah.
So you could have any symptom which is pointing in the direction of you being a little, contracted. Okay. And the thing is that with toxic estrogen also, your body eliminates it naturally through your feces, through your stool, through your urine. And you need to know the foods to eat. So the brassica group of vegetables, for example, cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli, these are all to help you eliminate it.
Sure. So I want to just take you back to this conversation we started with. The whole menopause, perimenopause experience today, as Indian women have it or are beginning to at least acknowledge it, is very Western driven. Because that's the narrative sitting there.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I was literally saying, Shonali, I want you to be on this show, is because I want people to know the Indian female experience. I mean, including the fact that Indian women get perimenopause or menopausal much before the Western. I think they get it post 50, we may be getting it early 40s to mid 40s, etc. I even know of somebody who's been perimenopausal at 38, right? And these things manifest differently. So to understand this better, one, tell us, how is the Indian female experience different given how many people you've met in peri?
I feel the Indian female experience should actually be better because we are eating more home cooked food. We cook fresh, we eat fresh. The sad part is our exposure has changed. So because we've had an influx of Western goods in the market and we have so much choice now, so women are exposed to foods which are off the shelf and foods with additives, foods with colorings, foods with preservatives, which is coming in as well.
Yeah.
And you're reaching for those foods, and then it's becoming more difficult.
Yeah.
All right. The experience of perimenopause and menopause remains the same across the board. The Indian experience, I think menopause coming early is something that's also happening in the West. It's not just happening here. In fact, I feel Indian women do a better job of preserving their hormones. You know, I feel like, for example, if you see Indian women's skin, it wrinkles less faster than the Western skin. All right. Estrogen has a lot to do with your skin, so collagen absorption, etc., has a lot to do with what's being shown on your skin, right?
Yeah.
Or your hair, for example. We do have better, great hair quality and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But you know, we're inherently so low on protein, and therefore, I mean, for collagen to really work, it's the layer above protein in many ways.
For
right?
collagen to work, you have to have a really good gut, right? And most people are suffering with weak guts.
Yeah.
So they are not being able to absorb the stuff that they're eating and then make good collagen, right? But I think you have to work towards a strong gut. If you have a good digestion,
Yeah.
that's where the seat of everything is, right? That's what most, I won't say men, women are lacking. You know, that's what I see in my practice.
Yeah.
That it's when you build up a strong gut and you're absorbing everything that you eat from the food, that's when you're, you know, getting the nutrients and you're being able to absorb the protein that you're eating as well.
Yeah, yeah. So everyone's talking about hot flashes. What exactly is going on in the female body when it comes to hot flashes, and how is nutrition, you know, able to solve that? Because just prima facie one wonders, like, what can nutrition really do to all my sweat? You know what I mean? My night sweats. Just
so the
what
thing
do you
is
talk
that
about
you can do a lot for yourself as far as hot flashes are concerned. One is being practical about living in the climate that you are and wearing the kind of clothes that you wear, right? So you can aid yourself with clothes, you can aid yourself with temperature in your house, you can aid yourself to make you comfortable.
Yeah.
You can also aid yourself with food. So we all know today at the drop of a Google press and you get your answers of what are the foods which cause
Yeah.
you hot flashes to get worse. Like garlic is a heaty food, so we know that we should try and cut it back. Or what are the cooling foods? Like, will I have cucumber and chia seeds which cool my body down, right? Not just ice cold drinks, but will I have foods with the thermal temperature of cooling, the coolingness of the body, so you bring the temperatures down. I also feel balanced diets at this time, so less focus on eating out and more focus on eating home cooked is a big thing.
You know, all celebrities in the US suddenly are talking about being sober and vegetarian, and I wonder if it's linked to their hot flashes suddenly.
Could be.
Yeah.
Meat kind of pushes the acidic load up, pushes the heat up.
Yeah.
Right? So you focus on more plant-based, it helps. I think giving up dairy, I'm a big proponent for that. I've always advocated it because I just don't think we're getting the right dairy. And if you do the research on it, it's just pushing things off.
So let's talk about dairy. This is India. We are believed in the belief of milk, right? We're raised in the belief of milk. What makes dairy problematic, particularly for females? And at what stage should they be shedding off their love for dairy if they haven't?
So dairy is problematic because of all the growth hormones that cows are being given today, specifically with women. And when you're ingesting dairy, you're also ingesting those hormones. It's coming through, like when you're breastfeeding your child, if you eat chili food, you're going to pass it on to your kid. It's the same theory, right? Dairy has casein, which is a protein which doesn't assimilate very well in the gut. It makes for a sticky gut. The digestion of dairy causes your lungs to have the build-up thrown up. So people with bronchial issues have more.
Yeah.
They get more severe. So dairy has 100 issues, and especially pasteurized and homogenized, it's not doing much for you. You've anyway stripped it of everything. So until you know your cow, don't do the dairy, which is very tough, right? It can happen in a Punjab and a Haryana where you have your own field. Can't happen in cities, right? All the estrogen dependent cancers that you have, all the women cancers are very, I can say this, are very dependent on what your dairy consumption is. If you look at a lot of women with breast cancer, they are mainly they are having a lot of dairy.
So, Shonali, we again, our vegetarian diets are tilted over paneer.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, somebody told me when I said, "Oh, we have paneer as protein." That person corrected me and said, paneer is dairy fat and not protein." Just unpack this whole paneer theory for us. I mean, like, where
so
are we
paneer
on
is
it?
dairy. It comes from dairy. It's got the milk solids. When you're going to have it, it is going to do exactly what dairy does for you. It does have a little additional protein, but it's going to give you what dairy gives you.
So anybody who argues that I am well fed in terms of proteins as a vegetarian, but is topping up, their paneer consumption, is that really the answer to their protein needs?
Not really. You can get great protein from tofu. It's just that people don't like the taste. See, we are a very taste-driven nation as well, right?
Correct.
And not just us.
Yes,
Any
everywhere.
human being, our relationship with food is so intimate. It's probably more intimate than your relationship with your partner, So when you talk about, given the choice between food and sex, most people choose food. I'm telling you, I've asked that question a lot of times.
Yeah. Does nutrition have an impact on mood swings?
100%, because see, the way you eat, the foods you eat, serotonin is made, the happy hormones made in the gut. Okay? So if you're going to eat food, your gut's good and you're making good serotonin, you're going to be happy. Most people, depression has a very big link to the way you eat. Very deep link to the way you eat.
How so?
Alright? Because of the foods you're eating. You could be sugared out. You could be having a lot of sugar. It couldn't be just the white sugar coming in your coffee. It could be many foods that you're eating.
Yeah.
Now you're already in a little low. Let's say you're already a little low. Now, you're already going through a low and now you're consuming more sugar to help you get out, or you're consuming that extra glass of wine and it's got sugars in it and it's triggering the wrong thing, but you're not focusing on your fiber.
Yeah.
Maybe some fiber which is going to go give your good gut bugs, little more fiber, make you happy, give you good serotonin. So we have diets which are lacking in fiber, but people are, these people who are depressed don't know they have to eat starchy vegetables. For example, if you're carb phobic, all right, so people have this thing, restrict grain carbs, don't eat any grains at night. All right, the worst decision to make for someone who's mentally depressed.
Really?
Yeah.
I see.
Or stop all starchy foods at night because they make you fat, right? Again, the worst decision.
But this is like that vicious cycle. When you think you are getting fat, you get depressed, you don't eat them, and it all just sort of plays into each other.
Could be that case, all right? But the best decision you can give someone, best advice you can give someone when they are depressed is eat a sweet potato at 5 o'clock in the evening and eat a whole grain at dinner. It's a simple fix because it will start helping you with that good serotonin and help you with, happy hormones. Women have to accept it. You finally have to accept that, hey, I'm aging, and you're going to see a wrinkle on your neck, and you're going to see maybe your nasal labial folds, like I keep grumbling about mine, right? You're going to see all that happen to you. I think women have to accept it like any other phase in their life. It's going to happen. And you're losing interest in sex. A lot of women's libido plummets. All right, sometimes low estrogen is happening because again the estrogen progesterone balance is progesterone's gone, so you're getting into this low progesterone from high to low. It happens, right? And so libido suffers. So your men are not looking at you the way they used to look at you before. Plus you've spent a good 20-25 years in your relationship. Relationships have changed. I look at it as a second birth. Like for me, perimenopause and menopause is like women are given a second innings.
The other thing that's sort of a byproduct of this, I don't know if this is an Indian condition, but just having bone aches and generally a weak structure.
So women anyway lose more bone after they menopause faster than men do. And
why is that?
It's just because of the decline in estrogen. Estrogen has a lot to do with it. All right. And a lot of cardiac stuff. So two things women should keep in mind going forward is cardiac and bone health at this time. Very crucial. One of the biggest things you can do for bone health is strength bearing exercises, right? So Pilates or yoga, bearing your
body weight bearing.
Weight training, all right? And keep at it because women will gain weight during this time. It's a coping mechanism of the body to the situation.
I see.
So the belly weight is normal, because the body now starts making your hormones in your fat cells. So you are going to, store more fat. It's a protection mechanism for this time.
Phase.
So you are going to put on weight. So work harder, keep working, because 2 years before the actual event of menopause and 2 years after, it takes the body to stabilize. So technically for 4 years, you're actually in this whole phase of perimenopause and postmenopause.
Like at the peak of it.
At the peak of it, yeah. It's actually 4 years of your life, I feel.
I recently went to a dermat because the amount of hair fall I've had just scared the hell out of me, right? I feel like I have a third of hair that I had, let's say, 12 months ago. And funnily, I walked in and the first thing he said, how much protein do you eat in your plate? And then I unpacked my entire diet and he said, you need to just double this protein because I just don't see how your hair will come back. And then he added a few things to the whole nutrition piece. And this is the dermat yet, I haven't even landed up with a nutritionist. And I have spent majority of my life understanding which shampoo to put, right? Like most other women. Do we eat in the right method for things like hair and skin to finally get that bit of nutrition? I'm guessing there's a priority table every time food enters our body.
So I'll flip this around. I'll say, go back and see what are the things you've done which have caused that blood condition to go weak, so you have weak hair structure. Sugar does it, dairy does it, too much of alcohol does it, processed and refined foods do it. Pushing your adrenal glands, which is your cortisol, and with coffees and teas and stuff does it. And then I would say address hair fall. Women are going to have a little bit of hair fall during the perimenopause phase, and if you see, they get it here.
Yeah.
This is the area.
Yes.
Okay. So that's going to be there. But once the body gets back to some semblance of normalcy, that hair comes back.
Right.
I feel doubling your protein is not the answer, because protein needs to process. So it will, if you're a meat eater, you'll double the quantity. It will produce more heat in the body. It will put more load on your kidneys eventually. So eat protein according to your whatever you need, right? Your body's needs at the time. And focus on what you're doing. If you remedy that, what you're doing which is wrong, you'll fix it. It may take time, because hair takes 4 months. To change blood condition takes 4 months with a good diet. So once your gut is great, you're creating good blood condition. By that I mean your blood structure is great, you'll get your hair back.
Thank you. Wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you too.